I'm liberated. I don't read the papers. Yeah, I started off wanting to inspire the world. Things took a turn for the worst after my dad died. But I think it's in the tension that you can find this stuff to play with. We're tired as people and we can't afford to stick around in situations, relationships that are not building. We need to talk about what being a social media manager is. It seems like it's a lot of overworked, underpaid, bullied. I checked out. I quietly quit. I love AI, just by the way, like ChatGPT, what to do?
What do you do, baby?
Welcome to the Millennials Corner, where most of us are lost in a trance.
What do you do, Buffet? So, Bonang, there's this thing about creativity, but it can actually boost your well-being and improve engagement. So I think this is one of the things we will be discussing today. But before we get started, actually check the numbers, and they suggest that at least 63.3% of the people who watch our content are not yet subscribed. I don't know the meeting, so please do us a solid and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. In case you're wondering why you should, let me remind you now, TMC is the brainchild of some super cool millennials who love talking about creativity, technology, and everything else in between. I told you last week how we retired, got Father's Day. So we have the second lady. The cool thing about Yena, she is also a host, a podcast called Art as Culture. So this creativity thinking towards a high. She holds a master's degree in theater and performance, right? We're gonna chat about that. AmoHelang also has experience working in the digital space as a podcast producer, as well as a social media content creator. So yeah, so please grab a snack, nyana, sit back, and then we'll unpack this whole shandies.
Hey.
Yo,
yeah, but thank you for overselling me. I only have my honors now. I'm pursuing my masters. I haven't gotten yet. But thanks for the oversell. I'd like for people to think.
I can manifest.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's so good to be here.
Start living in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much actually for agreeing to do this with us.
It was a tough one.
Really?
It was a tough one.
One of our previous episodes. So in the comments, this guy will reply, when you see a TMC notification, just click the link.
Come on now. You know what I mean?
We have this thing, Barga is break.
Okay.
That's who.
Okay.
So Horeru is ini.
Okay.
Easy. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. To answer this question, for one word answer. Just one word.
Okay.
Unless you feel the need to explain.
Unless you throw me under the bus.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Let's ride.
So, who wrote Romeo and Juliet?
Shakespeare.
Oh
my God, what?
If you had to pick one social media platform to live with forever, which one would it be?
Twitter.
If you had a superpower, what would that be?
Ooh. To feel, right? To empathize more as a superpower. Sure, we can say telepathy. Yeah. But I'd want to. And I'll get into that. Can I give you an answer as to why I'm saying that now? Sure. I just feel like we're at a point where we're a little bit desensitized to one another in the world as a society, as human beings. So I think it would be a superpower for a lot of people to just get a little bit more in touch with their communities, with themselves, in an effort to just create a more deeper sense of self and being.
The question is, do they want to?
Oh, look at you now.
Michelle Obama or Oprah Winfrey?
Oprah. But I mean, under extreme circumstances, it would be Oprah. Under extreme circumstances, but I'd love both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sure. Yeah. This is what it is, extreme circumstances.
Yeah, okay, so Oprah.
Oh, wait, sweet. Yeah. So, podcasting or theater?
You're doing this to me?
I had to.
podcasting or theater? Podcasting or theater?
I don't know anymore.
Theater any day, all day. Theater any day, all day, I must say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm easy now. Now, are you easy?
I'm good. Ice has been broken officially. Thank you.
So, Arqala, man, AmoHelang, because already a lot of people are probably wondering, who's this amazing lady, or guy went out of his way to get on the podcast. So let's talk about who you are. Like we can even tap into your upbringing, your childhood friends. Yeah.
Whew, AmoHelang. So my name is AmoHelang Hlakotsa. I can give you a backstory as to how my parents got to naming me AmoHelang. So there was some tensions between my mother and her mother-in-law, my dad's mother, as it goes with most Black communities. So my mother-in-law wasn't very fond of my mom, and so she had her first pregnancy, which is my brother, and she named him Lerato, which is love, and then she named me AmoHelang, which means welcome. So welcome the love, because her mother-in-law wasn't about that life. So she was really just trying to send a message.
Get creative, right? Such a creative.
Deep down inside, just accept this love that is transpiring between me and my husband. I love that story. I had a pretty good upbringing for the most part, both parents, my dad, I think, was like a super dad in the sense that like he was incredibly dynamic and he introduced us to a bunch of things that, typically speaking, a lot of children in Black communities don't get exposed to. You know what I mean? So we used to go fishing. We used to travel quite a bit, He listens to a range of music. So he would go from Jonas Gwangwa to Oskido. He bought my brother a Deep House CD. He bought me Destiny's Child. He bought my oldest brother a Westlife CD. Yeah. So throughout my childhood, we were just exposed to like a range of things, even though beskulele lokshini.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I had a colorful childhood. It was nice in the hood until it wasn't nice, because then I was dubbed the coconut.
You give the vibe. Off that vibe, ne? Yeah.
Am I giving?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, but
how does that make you feel today?
Honestly speaking, it's something that I absolutely hated. And I think it's something that I'm only getting comfortable with now, because it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something I have to apologize for. But during my upbringing, I used to find myself wanting to apologize for it. And as a result of that, I'd want to put myself in spaces that made me more Black, because I didn't feel Black enough, because I had a different accent.
Yeah.
But like, why are you mad? Like, how are you going to be mad at me? These are sort of the privileges that were afforded to me. But I also just needed to find the balance between that and also recognizing that there is a certain kind of Blackness that I need to understand about myself. Because my dad was very intentional in keeping the typical brand of Blackness outside. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's like real talk. So once I was aware of that and I was conscious of that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. In as much as that was what he may have wanted, I am a Black woman who now has to navigate this world by myself after he died. And I realized that actually there is a Blackness that I need to accept about myself, which requires other things more than others. Khuluma isiZulu, Tsotital, whatever the case may be, eating in dog or whatever the case may be, I don't know.
Is that what you associate to Blackness?
No, not really. Those are like
to Blackness is associated to Inyama and Togo.
Yeah, no. But I just needed to find the balance. And I think I also just needed to understand that like being Black can be your own thing, right? You just don't want to lose your sense of self and your sense of culture.
Okay, cool. I love to hear that. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. I asked him, I have a little brother, right? If you had one, what would you do for them now? And then he mentioned some of the, like what I think is very important, which is like a point you touched on. And I wasn't thinking about it like at all. He said, increase their exposure to things. If you can afford to take them from Kobalengoteng for a couple of days and put them in a different space, do that.
Yeah.
If you can afford to give them internet access and let them, navigate things by themselves, I think that's how they're going to grow and become people who can easily, adjust in society.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that explains why you would find it like very important for people to empathize, because probably you've been in a space where you felt like people did not understand you for a long time.
Yeah, a very, very long time. I struggled with a sense of like loneliness per se, because I felt outed, like I am the black girl in the hood, but I don't feel like I can establish any kind of real relationships with anyone around me because of the fact that my accent makes me better. So I was then now sidelined because of things like that.
But isn't it working for you today? It is. It's cool to speak well.
Of course, let's call a spade a spade. It's nice to speak English, and it's nice for corporates to sort of perceive you a particular way. Yeah. But I do think there is a new wave of Black consciousness that requires for one to still be in touch with who they are. Speak your language. Do you know what I mean? I'm Sotho. Surprise, surprise. I'm Sotho, but I can't for the life of me hold a long conversation ka Sesotho. Do you know what I mean? I think that's important. In fact, if anything, after my dad died, I needed to start using taxis more. So that means speaking isiZulu. I'm going to Bree. You need to be like, Sanbona and get Bree, get therapy, get there. You know what I mean? You can't be like, you know what I mean? You know what it's like. So I needed to get into the habit of doing those things because I didn't have the shell around me anymore. I didn't have the shield. I had to figure out that, this is actually how the world works, and I need to be able to be, Black.
You had to find creative ways to adjust. Yeah. Creativity as a concept, what does that mean to you?
I think creativity is like seeing something for what it is, but being able to work around it, modify it, make it better, and express that in a way that it hasn't been presented, right? That's one way. I also think creativity is just fundamentally creating something out of nothing, right? So personally, I wouldn't go out of my way to be like, I'm a creative. I find there's a brand of creativity that I just don't align with, especially like on Instagram, but we'll get into that later. But I just feel like just the ability to create something, whether you take a poem and whether you string words together and turn that into a poem, that's an act of creativity. Whether you, take paint and create a picture, you're creating something. So I think creativity is really just being able to play around what is presented as it is. So taking the ordinary to extraordinary. It's a kind of amplification, if you will.
So it does not necessarily have anything to do with how you look. Okay, so I'm asking this because when somebody invites you to an event with creatives, you probably have a picture of what you're going to get. They probably, dress up a certain way. They speak a certain way. Do you think that kind of like cultural, definition of creativity, or that culture that people choose to create for creatives, really is important? Does it define creativity? Because personally, I feel like it kind of like dilutes a little bit.
And this is one of the reasons why I wouldn't go out of my way to call myself a creative, because I feel like it's been branded as this thing where you have to be cool or you have to have a certain number of followers. And I'm not taking away from influencing and whatever the case may be, but where are the people that are creating? Do you know what I mean? For me, that's where the creativity is at. And I suppose that's sort of where my inspiration for my podcast came from. This sort of curiosity around creativity. What is pushing this person to create this thing? What is inspiring this person to make this thing more than what it was? Do you know what I mean? But I do think Johannesburg, y'all, Johannesburg has a thing, Johannesburg has a thing.
Have you stayed in a different city before?
It's always been Jozi, but I've visited a couple of places. I did some work where I traveled quite a bit. Right now, I'm spending a lot of my time outside of Joburg. And let me tell you something, it's very peaceful. Joburg is a lot of hype. I'm going to say this right into the camera. There's just a lot of hype in Johannesburg, and I don't know if it's real, okay? Being away from Joburg has sort of afforded me a different perspective away from. I can be on the outside looking in. And not to take away from like how dope the city is.
And that's when you actually get to experience.
That's when because you're not being cool about it, you know? You see the city for what it is and you experience it for what it's presenting. But if you're here long enough, you just get pulled into this sort of strange pretense. And I think social media has also just exacerbated that to a certain extent, just made it worse. Like things like, so these days we've replaced how are you with what do you do? You know, these days we're not checking in on, we're not checking in on the person, we're checking in on how many followers they've gained. Do you know what I mean? There's a weird facade that's going on and it's normalized.
You find so many people working so hard to, constantly recalibrate how they appear on social.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of there's something that Barkemang, I think it was Ray Dalio. So Ray Dalio, this is very much complicated. Like a lot of people struggle to get it, but I think it's easy. I'll try.
Okay.
Are, you are not who you think you are. You are not who people think you are, but you are who you think people think you are. Does that make sense?
You are who you think people think you are.
You are not who people think you are. You are who you think people think you are.
What are you saying? Because that's basically like saying, so you're saying everything that you're not is everything that you are?
You think a certain way about yourself.
Yes.
There's a way I think about yourself, but who you really are is who you think I think you are.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I don't know if it's true.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to agree with it. I'm saying I don't agree because isn't there a danger to saying that who you are is based on what you think other people's perceptions of you are?
No. Okay, so he's not saying that that's who you truly are, but that's who you thrive to be. That's who you wake up every day trying to be.
Okay.
In layman terms, I would say, you live to impress other people or to live up to other people's expectations of who you are.
Yeah. That is dangerous.
Away. So I fit the fast name. Rework a podcast since you mentioned art as culture. Yo, AmoHelang, we have so many podcasts.
We do.
Yo, not another one. Fit.
Somebody make it stop.
Okay, guys, there's somebody who wants to start a podcast. What advice would you give them? I would legit be like, yo, bro, don't start.
Don't start the thing.
You did it anyway. Why do you think it's important to have another podcast called Art as?
Look, okay, I'm going to start off by saying that I started podcasting way before it was hype, okay? Do I deserve a medal for that? No, but I was genuinely doing it from a place of curiosity. Like I said earlier on, that I was really curious about creativity. I'm curious about process work. I'm curious about this notion of broke artists, especially in South Africa. I'm curious about the South African creative landscape. So as someone who at the time was busy with my BA in dramatic arts at Wits, and someone who was about to get into the work world, it was important for me to sort of get a sense of what I was getting myself into. What is freelancing? What does that mean for me as a young person who's about to get into the industry? So when I started the podcast, it was because I had questions. And it started around like 2017, 2018, when there was a renaissance of creativity, Mama Gashaga, Fry Pan, there was just a nice freshness, Naymil. It was just a nice vibe around being a creative. And I was like, wow, what does that mean? How are you making your money? How can I get into that? How are you sustaining yourself? And what does that mean for the person who's becoming the creative? So I didn't start it. It started from a place of curiosity and honestly from a place of truth and just wanting to find out how to navigate the industry. Podcasts right now, hi Sana, hi. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a little bit annoying when everyone has an opinion about everything. It does get a little bit tiring, not another one. We're not taking away from the sort of the freedom that we've gotten from being online, whatever the case, but it's just can you just not, But yeah, so my podcast was really born from a place of curiosity.
Nick Butler was has the mandate changed, in the recent years with why you still want to continue the podcast?
I haven't been recording podcasts. Instead, I've just been having conversations. Do you know what I mean?
And why are you not recording them?
I've moved away from the online space. I've moved away from wanting to put everything out there all the time. Not for any other reason, but just to remind myself why I'm doing this and to really allow myself to be present for what I'm doing. So there was a time where podcasting, I was doing it because everyone was like, yo, it's dope, bro. Like, get the numbers, get a partnership, you know what I mean? Start getting into videography. And I was just like, these are great ideas to grow, but I just feel like it's becoming something more than what I had wanted it to be, right? I just was asking questions, and I appreciate growth and I appreciate development, but I just didn't feel like I had the capacity, and I didn't feel like it was the time yet. So I've stopped because I'm just engaging in real conversations, and I'm really just trying to get a sense of where the industry is at right now. Should I feel the need to get back into it, I definitely will, because I do love conversations, I do love culture, I do love creativity. But I just feel like the online space right now is a little bit putty-on-y.
Yeah.
I don't have to be an expert at creativity. In fact, I don't even think I am. I don't have to be the forerunner of whatever the case may be. For me, it's just important to be truthful and honest to what I'm doing in the moment without getting lost in people's ideas.
So the questions that you had at that time when you decided to start your podcast, do you feel as though they are all answered?
Are any questions ever all answered?
Why are you thinking about that? Another question, well, you don't need to answer that, right? Yeah. The other question, if there was a kid like you then who had these questions, you probably created this platform because you couldn't find this information anyway, right? Or you probably wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. There's high chances there's another kid today who just like has all these questions. You wouldn't reach all of them, right? But a kid like Guy, who would one day feel like artist culture, let me go there for inspiration, just to listen at how other people are doing it. It's an impact that you will never understand because it's not quantitative, although it's still qualitative, but it's very hard to if they never left you a review or they never called you that, hey, so I was listening to this podcast, let's do it. And I think, yeah, what you guys were talking about really inspired me to do something about my life, And yeah, whether you do it or you don't do it for your own reasons, but I still feel like there was some sort of inspiration and useful information that was carried, got the message, like the message from your guests and yourself also, like women listen to that podcast and like, oh, AmoHelang did it from first law and now. Yeah. Which brings me to the next question, I need you to answer. What were the technical steps that we created this podcast when it happened?
I was going to say that I love how you've used your inside voice, just made sure that you got through to me in that statement. Thank you. But the technical steps were really so at the time I was working with a friend of mine. We had a little marketing business. And I was like, hey dude, I have so many questions about the industry. And she was like, start a podcast. I was like, start a podcast? She's like, yeah, start a podcast. And I was like, oh, and she had a MacBook at the time. Sure. And she just pressed record. Actually, before we started doing Art as Culture, we were doing a podcast on mental health. Myself and Ayanda. It was called...
Shout out Ayanda.
Shout out Ayanda. It was called something not forgotten, but it was about sort of mental health and wellness in Black communities mostly. Because there was a surge in suicide somethings at the time. So her and I used to have a lot of those conversations, and we used to record them and she used to upload them. So she had the technical expertise. I just had things to say. I just had a voice and I had opinions and I had expressions and views that I wanted to share. So we did that for a while, and then eventually I was like, no man, what about these cool creatives that we're seeing on IG, how are they doing it? Do we still have broke artists? Why do we still have broke artists in South Africa? And she was like, put that into a podcast. And then she pressed record. And I just sort of got into it. And I was really asking questions from a place of wanting to know for myself. What do you mean?
Privilege of coconut.
I didn't have a MacBook at the time. I had a little idea pad. So she's really the one who put me on. And I must mention that like we have since split, not been working together for a while, and our relationship did sort of hit a speed bump. But I think it's important for me to mention that in many ways, she did help me sort of build something. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? By providing the platform, by having the technical expertise, by being able to say, just press record and I will upload for you. Because that's all I wanted to do at the time. I just wanted to talk about stuff. I didn't really have the time or the capacity to learn how to upload a podcast, how to get into it, etc., etc.
That actually speaks so much to the power of collaboration, you know?
Yes, yeah.
It can actually take our creativity from this level and then ease, like, you know, up a notch. And we're slowly understanding it, the power and the life-changing magic of writing, of collaboration, but we're still kind of like struggling to really do it.
Do you know, I think, and I was thinking about it this morning, I was just like, this idea that like there isn't enough, and I don't know, we can blame it on the media, we can blame it on whatever enterprises or corporate companies that exist, or propaganda, let's say, for the lack of a better word, let's say propaganda is putting out the idea that there is not enough. If you hear it long enough, you're going to believe it and you're only going to look out for yourself, right? And that is directly linked to capitalism, but we won't get into that.
Social dilemma.
Yeah, social dilemma, right? But like, I'm so glad you mentioned collaboration, because I'm really interested in collaboration and community. And that's something that I learned way later on in the game, where I was like, oh no, but I can't do this by myself. I actually need to work laterally. Is it laterally and not vertically? You know, I'm gonna speak for like my Black communities. I think I wish we could get more into the habit of working laterally so we can spread wider instead of trying so hard to work our way up, because we need each other in that way. As creatives, I absolutely love that you have a team. I love that so much because I took that for granted. And I often wonder like what it takes to put a team together to make a product what it is. You wouldn't have been able to have such a dope platform if you were doing it by yourself.
Tell me about it.
So I think, I'm going to tell you about it, you know what I mean? So I love collaborations, and I love how you can take two sort of elements from two completely different industries, put them together and come up with something really, really beautiful. Yeah. And I think those are the little things that we're missing about collaborations. Right. But we have to be honest about the fact that there's just this narrative that there isn't enough for everyone. And as a result of that, we find ourselves just wanting to scrap for whatever we may find and hold on to it for ourselves, instead of thinking, Guy is an editor. Dumi is a writer. Okay, I know someone who can operate a camera. Let's get together and make this work. So there's this weird sense of competition that happens.
Who can do it better?
Again, who's got the most followers? And I think it's a distraction. It takes away from us actually binding together and building something really dope. I think there is room for a Black creative revolution. Yeah, I think there's room for that.
Yeah. I did a lot of things alone. I did so many things alone. But when I got into Umuzi, that's when I kind of like learned and realized, dude, if you want to go fast, sure, go, you know. But if you want to go far, get other people to go with you. And I think just having this team, you know, sharing the same vision for the podcast and just the creative and the community of technology, it has been so great. One would come as an editor, one would come for Okesha Buffet to, now I'll be the DOP guy, Omon comes out, now guys, I'll prepare the script. Like having people holding each other accountable, working towards the same goal, that is beautiful.
And it's not to say that it's not gonna have any conflicts. Like, let's be real, you know what I mean? Like, we're completely different people. We are going to have tensions, but I think it's in the tension that you can find the stuff to play with. Right. And I think if we started to, you know, guys, I think playing is so important, and I wish adults played more. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I guess like going out and partying and going to the club is a form of playing, but like just play more. You know, there's just so much exploration and discovery that we used to do as kids, and we used to do it without like thinking about it too much. And then there's so as we grow up, there's a sort of like limitation that we have towards how we do things that keeps us from sort of really digging and finding. And that's the work of creativity, again, is to continue exploring and to continue discovering.
Yeah, you speak of playing. And I think a lot of us really want to play. No, actually, you speak of empathy, right? How do you want us to empathize more with other people? And I think most of us would like to play, but we just live in this society that's always chasing survival, right? So you find, Jorge, at least, maybe let me say roughly 70% of people who consider themselves creatives, 6 days out of 7, they are at work, working so hard to impress their bosses. Sure, and still not earning enough to play. So I think as much as playing is super important, we need to find ways to play in a way that we can still survive. You know what I mean? Because now if you prioritize playing, it means the part that actually my life suffers.
And I feel like that's what a lot of artists go through. Artists want to play. I feel like fundamentally artists want to play, but there's the reality that I need to feed my family, I need to pay for rent, etc., etc. In fact, there's a really amazing exhibition right now by Banele Khoza. It's out in Rosebank.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Some of the artworks are journal pieces that Banele has written, journal entries rather. And one of the journal entries that is up in a gallery, which I thought was absolutely beautiful, because there's also this idea that like a gallery is just supposed to be like art that is like, you're trying to demystify what the lines and the colors mean. But like, it's a journal and it's just things that he's written. And one of them was rent, help, travel. And he writes there, rent, 4,500 Rand, travel, 1,000 Rand, artwork or tools and equipment for the gallery exhibition. And I was like, that's really nice because there's a transparency to the process that a lot of people don't often see and appreciate. So there is, I hear what you mean about playing, but still needing to, pay your bills.
Aribueka, this article that you recently released, calling in, you titled it 13 going on 31. From the little that we've picked up, from the text, it took you almost a decade to get your degree at Wits. Take us through that process, like actually through that article, like what was going through your mind when you wrote it and what are the details?
Yeah. It's still a bit like, oof. Thanks. It's still a bit like touch and go for me, having conversations and sort of sharing my experience. And I think the article was sort of like one step towards liberating myself from what I chained myself into, which is like failure. So in the article, honestly speaking, here's the thing about writing. You start, or with my writing anyway, I started off with a particular idea. I started off wanting to inspire the world. I ended up talking about like failure, and I recognized like so many things about the process of failure. Then I ended up talking about generational wealth, generational blessings, so it became its own little thing. It's taken me a while. It's taken me a while to get to the other side. But by the grace of God and by like so many intentional steps that have been taken and like particular people being placed on my path, I was able to finish what I started. The article, like I said, was just the beginning of me wanting to open up about it. And so, my academic journey was very, very tumultuous. The fact that I can even use that word, come on now. I was very tumultuous. It was very difficult. I did not feel that I had the stuff to make it through university, which, if you think about it, is at complete odds with how I grew up. Because I grew up with things at my disposal. I grew up a little bit spoiled, if you will. But things took a turn for the worst after my dad died. And so my being able to get to varsity was also just like an uphill battle. But like, shout out to my grandma. She like really wanted me to continue with my education and just have a better life. But as soon as I got to the institution, guys, I got to the institution, I recognized the people that were around me. I saw that the girl that I was sitting next to was driving a Mini Cooper when I'm still looking for res. I was just like, the dynamics have shifted. This is not some high school Mickey Mouse production. This is a real thing. And so I improvised, hey. The first 2 years of varsity, I improvised. Third year, I was academically and financially excluded. I came back. I continued to improvise. Guys, even just thinking about it, I'm just like, how? I improvised. And at some point, I just gave up. I think around 2016, 2017, I was like, actually, you know what? F this, like, I'm done. Like, I'm liberated. Now, I'm an artist. I don't need the papers, to get my things done.
Mark Zuckerberg, who dropped out of varsity and they're billionaires.
There are a bunch of dropouts who did this thing. Yeah, like, I'm going to freelance. And honestly, then I was like, okay, let me podcast. You know what I mean? Let me get into the habit of understanding what is a retainer, what is freelancing. I don't need this paper.
Come to Bro Creative.
You know what I mean? So around like 2016, I was like, no, I'm done with this. And I stopped going to school for a while. So about 4 to 5 years, I'm doing a couple of corporate gigs, digital marketing agencies. I did social media management across a couple of industries. But, there's a song by Keisha Cole, Sent from Heaven. You know the song?
Are you saying that?
The one you believe in your heart is sent from.
Yeah, it's hard.
So I hate to be this person, but like, I feel like my current partner, the guy that I'm dating, shout out, he was very much like, bro, like, finish what you started, like, get your degree. And it was met, in fact, it even took me a while to even admit that I hadn't accomplished this thing, because Wits is all over my social media profiles. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook. So there's an assumption that she graduated. But the ugliness of the matter is that I hadn't graduated. And so in a moment of sort of vulnerability, but in a moment of truth also, I admitted to my partner that I hadn't graduated. And I was so afraid when I was sharing that, because nobody wants to speak openly about their failures, because nobody wants to be judged.
If mic in the hand, it's fine. Like, I wasn't seeing the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I go?
Nobody wants to be judged.
Nobody wants to be judged. Nobody wants to be judged. But I was met with a lot of grace, and he was just like, yo, get it together. Get your degree. Like, what do you mean?
Get your shit together.
Shit together, girl. And I was like, okay.
That is so dope, bro. Like, getting somebody who will actually make you realize, bro, like, why aren't you doing
exactly? You know what I mean? But I think, and I feel it's important for me to mention this. So obviously my family knows, because we didn't have the huge graduation celebration, my family is aware that, no, man, our child went to university, money was spent on res, etc., 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 but she didn't graduate. But I think it was difficult for them to also come up to me and want to find out, but girl, why did you not graduate? Because I was also just sort of responding from a place of hurt, and I never wanted to get into why I never did it, because I felt like a failure. So I don't want it to seem like, oh my God, my family is just not like aware of what I'm doing. But I think it's a difficult thing to negotiate in your family, when it's something that you feel so sensitive about. But I think everything happens for a reason, and I think, God's timing is so perfect.
Yeah. You speak of suffering an acute case of imposter syndrome, right? So when does that start? You're this kid who, you know that you have everything away when you need it. This is not what I expect you to be feeling later at your stage. So when does this happen? And when do you recognize, okay, shit, to now, I feel like I'm not who I think I am?
It starts when I began my journey in corporate spaces. I just felt like I did not have the stuff. So it triggers me and it reminds me of how I felt coming into university. Every level has a devil. Sure. So I got to varsity and I didn't feel adequately prepared, or I didn't feel like I had the capacity to do it. I get to corporate spaces and I am surrounded by experts, or I'm surrounded by people who know what is going on. And immediately I start to feel like I don't have the credentials to be here.
And the winging it that has been that you've been doing all your life is now like catching up with you.
It's catching up with me because I can't get away with it now, because I have to, like now I actually have to work and get paid. And if I don't work, I don't get paid. Do you know what I mean? So I'm in survival mode. I'm entering, even though I know, and that's the thing, even though I know that like I'm smart and I can speak and I know things about things, it's just that I used to enter certain spaces and feel like I didn't deserve to be there. I felt like people were better than me. And as a result, I just didn't present myself as my best self because I did not see myself as my best self. Yeah. So I think my journey in corporate was, my journey in corporate was bad. It was really, really bad. And I think it still affects me now because my self-esteem and my confidence took a huge knock. But you can't have these conversations also about corporate spaces without mentioning some of the toxicity that comes with some of these spaces. So it's taken me a while to sort of feel like, okay, cool. Like even coming to this podcast, like like when I got the message, I was like, me?
Why me?
Why me? You know what I mean? So sometimes I still have these feelings of like, do I deserve to be here? What do I bring to the table? Even though deep down inside, I know, man, you know, I've got stuff, but it's just that sometimes it's really hard to marry who you know you are to spaces that don't celebrate that or don't even hold space for you to,
the state, the corporate space for creatives, right? You see a lot of businesses claiming to empower creativity, you know, ownership. So do you think that is the case in all spaces? And for that to be true, I believe it shouldn't take a toll on you, you know, so that just sends a red flag for me. And that's why I think maybe we need to chat about it.
I think, and I once wrote this down, that like the industry is counterintuitive because the industry says, like you said, that we are about empowering you, we are about investing in you. And even though the financial investment is important, there's also a fundamental investment and support that creatives and artists need on a very human level. A lot of the work that we produce as artists or as creators, and I'm using these words interchangeably, you know what I mean? There's a lot of our work comes from...
So we are actually creative artists.
Or artistic creative.
You know!
Sorry, so I think a lot of the industry may be a little bit counterintuitive in that there is no real support for artists. Like we know that artists' work come from like some really personal places and spaces. So it's hard for you to say keep producing the work, but now at the end of the month you're still worried about how you're going to pay rent and what you're going to eat. It's hard for you to tell me to give you my best production or my best piece of artwork or my best piece of writing when I still have to wait another 3 months to get the money that I need. So there's a fundamental breakdown in the understanding of what artists need and what the value of our work is. And I cannot take away from financial investment. Like we all need the money, but there's an underlying void in terms of how the industry operates, which is fundamentally rooted in money, capitalism. And it feels like a lot of artists and creatives are now operating in their capitalist sort of era.
Yeah, artists are expensive today.
You know what I mean? Like, I think artists are in their capitalist era, but it's just how the cookie crumbles. There's room for better, but I suppose these are things that we'll learn over time.
brand partnerships. When I was going through your IG, I saw a couple. Telkom popped up quite a lot. Let's talk about how you get those, and is it like something a creative artist or artistic creative can can depend on who maintain a lifestyle?
Yeah, I think it's become a lucrative form of money making. Is it something I would do over time? No. Like long term? No, it's not something I would do long term. Is it fun? Yes. And let me tell you how I got these things. I'm not going to be too deep about it. You know what I mean?
Why are you being deep? Why?
I'm not going to get too deep about it. I mean, I used what comes naturally to me. Someone plugged me with an opportunity. Hey, you've got wonderful hair. Can I plug you with this opportunity? Hey, you're a podcaster. There's a brand that needs this and this and that. And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? And I think part of figuring it all out is recognizing when the opportunities present themselves, right? So I come from a drama background. The dream was really just to be an actress, story-eyed and ready to be famous. And I won't lie, there are some opportunities that I may have fumbled along the way. But
fumbled the bag.
Yeah, like I fumbled a couple of bags. But, you just, as life would have it, you go through certain challenges, but you also just realize that, okay, this might be a wonderful opportunity and this may get me there, this may get me there. And as a result, that may get me to where I actually want to go. So I think it's just a matter of being open to the journey, looking a little bit different to what you may have expected it to look like. But a lot of those brand partnerships, I won't lie, they were plugs. Yeah. They were plugs from people around me who felt like, you can do this, you've got the numbers, make it happen. And I did.
Being in the space, Sasa, brand partnerships, do you think, other than just plugs, there's a way for AmoHelang who probably might not have had these plugs to get the gigs?
Honestly speaking, no. And I'll tell you why. So I recently did some work with a hair product, and we were all at the shoot together with a bunch of influencers, real influencers, but real people. And this one girl and I were just having conversations about how it matters that you know people because they will plug you. Yeah. So had I not been plugged, maybe the opportunity would have presented itself in a different way. But I think it matters who you know. It matters who you know. It matters that you have the numbers. That's the currency. Sure. I want to run away from it. I want to be deep about it. But it matters that you have the numbers and that you're willing to do the work. Sure. But I think also that was just a moment of favor, a moment to introduce me to different spaces, different places, and sort of maybe get me to a different place in a different way than I would have imagined. I'm not going to do that because I know it's on camera, so I'm going to let your editor do the thing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It sounded really dope. Because I was trying to refer to what's happening on my screen. I'm hearing you, such a powerhouse, bro. I'm here and I'm, immersed in this conversation. I'm kind of discovering quite a lot of things about you, how you think about the world, and how the world can be a better place. Yeah. Let's go back to you speaking about empathizing, right? I said, are we willing to empathize?
I definitely think there's a willingness. I just think we don't know how to. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think everybody wants to feel a sense of connection, feel a sense of community.
With so much competition.
Even with the competition, fundamentally, when you remove all else, or when you're about to go to bed, you just want to be thought of. You just want someone to have sent you a text. You want someone to have given you a call on your birthday, even though you can go on Twitter and talk about, oh my God, I don't really care much about gifts or whatever. You just want to be considered in that way.
Actually, now I realize it's that deep. I thought about it on a very shallow level. So now it's making more sense.
I think there's just so much that has happened in the world that has separated us from the simple things. Yeah. Just wanting to feel a connection, right? Yeah. And that's why I'm saying everybody has the willingness. There's no one in this world who does not have the willingness, because if you have the need for it yourself, that means you have the willingness to do it. If you have the need for empathy, that means you have the willingness to give empathy. But now the issue is that we don't know how. We're working from a place of not enough. Sure. We're working from a place of fear. You know what I mean? Yeah. A survival. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was just saying that, like, the world is in survival mode right now.
Bruh.
And if you think about it, there's not much you can do from survival. Absolutely. You're operating from lack, you know what I mean? But I think if we just, playing, breathing, and I know I sound like a chakrahan. I am a certified chakrahan. I will put that out there. Playing, breathing, just like getting back to basics, getting back to the simplicity of stuff. And I know it's something, I read an article about how millennials or Gen Z are more in touch with their being than they are about the stuff.
Spirituality is a big thing.
Wellness, you know what I mean? Yeah, like going into a toxic office, that's not going to work. Yeah. Like millennials are like, nah, like no, you know what I mean? Whereas we were just like, okay, I have to make it work. I have to hustle because I need to take money home. You know what I mean? But we're seeing with this generation that they have the language for wellness and they actually care to take care of themselves and not please the money-making sort of system, or whatever the case may be.
Do you think that is like a contributor to this new phenomenon? But they call it quiet quitting. Quiet
quitting, I think I've heard of it, yeah.
So what happens is that, like, you find employees just doing the bare minimum not to get fired, go spanning, right? But that is a trend that is kind of like, it's been seen in the space, especially in South Africa and across the world, where just people are like, okay, I'm gonna go to the office, just do
what is required of me.
Yeah, if they're working from home, some even end up detaching, like physically, but in most cases you find mentally collab.
I think that's happening. And now that you mention it, I think so I've worked for 2 digital marketing agencies, and I think as any Black creative, that is a right of way that you need to experience. If you need to know how strong you are, you need to be with a digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
Because it will test you.
It will test
you. Okay. So with the second one that I ended up working for,
number 1 marketing agency.
You know what I mean? Like, otherwise you're not getting it right. You know what I mean? So with the second
You remember Moody & Smith was the number 1 marketing agency?
Were we?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's on our website. You don't know what our website says.
No. The one thing about me, when I'm done, I'm done. Okay?
You quite quit a long time ago.
I checked out. So I did that with my second job, my second corporate gig as well. I was doing social media management and a whole lot of other things, because we need to talk about what being a social media manager is. It seems like it's a lot of things that we're not talking about and that don't really cover my bills. But the second gig where I was social media manager, I was like, I don't think my employer, I don't think my employer was a leader, And if you're going to build something, if you're going to start something and want to take it from here to here, you need to have some leadership skills. You know what I mean? You need to be able to lead, not micromanage, not bully, not overwork and underpay, not that. You need to be able to lead. That means you have a responsibility as a person to go and read up on what leadership is or what it looks like. So when I recognize that I'm not being led, because I needed the support, employees need support, right? You're not going to get into a space and then just not have anyone there to help you out with the process or whatever the case may be. So when I recognize that here, I'm just being overworked, underpaid, bullied, whatever the case may be, I checked out. I quietly quit. I quietly quit. And I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go above and beyond the call of duty. Because it was taking a toll on me as a person, as a creative. And something that occurred to me in that moment is that, like, how do you qualify what creativity is, Because he considered himself a creative director, which was dope. I think he was creative in many ways. But I think I'd also come through and be like, no, but let's try it like this, let's try it like that. And he'd be like, no, think out of the box. And I'd be like, you see, now you're not listening to me and what I'm bringing towards you. You're turning this into he said, she said, or you're turning this into a kind of competition. It was a necessary process for me to go through, and I'm grateful for it. But just to get back to the point of quiet quitting, we're just tired. Like, we're tired as people, and we can't afford to stick around in situations, relationships, workplaces that are not building. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, what are you coming back with? Nothing. Then you have nothing to give. you know? So I couldn't. So I quietly quit. Nice. Yeah.
Have you enjoyed being a podcast producer?
I have enjoyed each and every bit of it. And it's taken me a while, again, to recognize that I am fundamentally a storyteller creative in the sense that I really love to take something from start, take it through development phase, sort of figure out what it's going to look like, and then present the final product. Yeah. And I've had the privilege of working across...
Did you just explain creativity or innovation?
You can run that back on camera because you can't keep asking me these questions. But that's a great question. Because is there a difference?
Nah, it really sounds like creativity.
Yeah.
Or innovation. Is there even a difference?
That's what I'm saying, right? But anyway, I have had the privilege of working across industries. We did property. I've done agriculture.
We did the only daily podcast in Africa.
I mean, y'all better recognize, okay? Y'all better recognize. So property, agriculture, wellness. I've just been able to spread myself across industries because I think every brand has a story. Every industry has a story. And I love to tell stories. So when I was much younger, I felt that I could only tell stories like when I was in theater, right? I felt that the only way that I could tell a story is using my body. And I love that I have that part of myself. But the challenges that I've sort of encountered across the way have sort of opened me up to many ways of storytelling, writing, even content creation. You know what I mean? So there are many ways to tell a story. And I've fallen in love with podcasting mostly because I'm a listener. Listening is a lost art, you know? Sometimes I listen to some of the music that we're listening to right now and I'm just like, you know? So I just fell in love with listening again.
You should try out, excuse to interrupt, you should try out UK R&B. That's what I'm currently listening to.
Give me an artist.
I just went on Spotify.
Yeah.
Got a playlist.
Spotify's algorithm though, like it's fire.
And got a playlist there at UK R&B.
Yeah.
It's dope. Yeah. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so...
Back to Askis.
Yeah, no worries. Podcast producing just sort of came as a natural extension of who I am. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm learning as I curate my career, is that I am using what comes naturally to me to create a life that I want. Sure. I don't want to now go and look and find things that I need to, which I suppose in this world you have to have other skills and you have to have other ways of doing things. But for me, I'm just like encountering myself in a way that I never have before. And I'm just recognizing that I am dynamic in that way. And maybe digital marketing is my thing. Yeah. Maybe storytelling in the digital marketing space is my thing. And something that I've just gotten curious about is just how to merge theater online, or how to bring theater online, or what does digital theater look like? That doesn't take away from the essence of what theater is. Yeah. So I'm not like off-ramping into a completely different industry or whatever the case may be. I'm using the little pieces of my foundation and sort of just merging that to where the world is right now.
Love to hear that. Speaking of where the world is, let's talk about the state of creativity in our country, as South Africa, right? Honale AI, which is like really taking the world by a storm today. Do you think AI is kind of like having any sort of impact on the state of creativity in Mzansi? What is that?
In Mzansi?
Yeah, specifically in Mzansi.
Okay, remember when social media came up? No, it's falling and you don't have a makeup artist on set. So now, I must improvise.
You
give us the money. Every time something new is introduced, there's this panic. Oh my God, is it going to take over? Oh my God, can we handle this? Oh my God, we're going to run out of jobs. Oh my God, Facebook, wow. There's a lot of panic.
Clubhouse. You remember the vibe at Clubhouse?
I loved Clubhouse.
You, right?
I loved Clubhouse, but I loved it for the exclusivity. You know what I mean? But it was a dope platform. Do I think AI is going to, kill jobs and, oh my God, no. But I have to say that, like, in South Africa, we don't catch up to innovation as quickly as the rest of the world. It takes us a while. Do you know what I mean? if you think about podcasting has been a while, has been around for a while. But we only started to recognize it when it was presented or packaged to us in a particular way, which was the very famous one, actually, right? So it was presented to us as traditional television, where we are having interviews. It was presented to us as a talk show. But podcasting existed way before that. So there's a slowness to how South Africa does things. Is it a good or a bad thing? That's not really the conversation, but I don't think AI is going to put anyone at a disadvantage. I think we just need to be able to move, Get with it. If we are going to use it in the company, then use it. If we're not going to use it, then don't use it. Does it require for us to maybe learn new skills or teach new skills? Then let's do that. But I mean, every time something is introduced, I think there's a sort of outrage that we just kind of need to calm down, see the thing for what it is, and see how can we use this to better ourselves or better our industry. But I think that will only come from truly valuing or truly recognizing the value that the creative industry brings. If I don't see your value, I'm going to abuse you. That's just facts. You know what I mean? If I don't see the value of a creative industry, I'm going to abuse the industry. So as a person who's not even in the industry, if I see AI, I'm going to be like, it's just, you will not use the thing to its full capacity if you don't see the value of what it brings.
That's true, yeah. I think. Yeah.
I love AI, just by the way, like ChatGPT, what do you do?
What do you do, baby?
I love it. I think it's just presenting a new opportunity to do things. The world is moving.
But there's one thing I'm learning about it lately. AI will never replace creatives. It will never. Because ChatGPT is becoming redundant to me.
Yeah, right. The more I use it, I'm just like, girl, that's the pitch you're going to come up with. I mean? I don't know how many times I've regenerated response because I'm just like, rara.
I has not realized that I'm like, okay, creatives are safe. Yeah. Because one thing about AI, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And you need people who, and I'm like, in the world, what is today might not be tomorrow. AI is not sustainable because AI only knows what you give it, Fanda.
I think there's definitely still a lot of space, but creatives are safe. That statement bothered me, and I don't know how, and I get in what context you mean it, but creatives mustn't be safe. Creatives mustn't be safe.
I mean, they are safe in the context that AI will not replace them.
But let's say we lived in a world where AI was like genuinely threatening to replace them, then what? And that's your work as a creative. Okay, guys, Sasa.
Of course, we always have a span.
New AI, it's gonna do the most. As a creative, you need to be able to be like, damn, okay, so what is this requiring of me? It requires you to think on a whole other level. And I think creatives have that ability. Sure. Do you know what I mean? That's the essence of being creative. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about your journey. Obviously, you have failed a couple of times and you're still standing and very strong, bruh. Yeah. Tell us what it takes to fail so much and after so many years and still be standing.
I don't like that question. No, I don't like that question.
How would you have asked that question? Let's start there.
What's keeping you standing? Just keep it here, because, and there's nothing wrong with how you asked it. It's just that I went into TED Talk mode where I feel like I need to give you a long technical answer. I don't have those answers. If anything, I can't say that I'm here by myself. I may think that I do not have a community around me, but there are definitely people around me who are supporting me, who are rooting for me. You spoke earlier on about how I may not recognize or realize the impact of my podcast, but it's there, right? I believe so much in spiritual guidance. I believe so much in leaning on the people that are around me. But I've also honestly just had a conversation with failure. I've encountered failure face to face. Because I think often what we do is that we want to run away, but failure is there. It's lingering. Have the conversation with failure and decide who's going to keep standing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the narrative is that failure is going to come and overcome you, or it's going to come and take you down. But you determine that.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of it for me in my journey is that I've just learned to face the ugliness, face the discomfort, sit in it, ask it questions, and just realize how we can either walk hand in hand or I can leave it where it was and move on.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just grateful for each and every stumbling block and for every challenge. It hasn't been easy. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I believe so much in the inevitability of my success that I needed to encounter those things for me to get to a particular point. Shoot, like if I didn't go through those things, I wouldn't have been on this podcast. What do you mean?
You know what I mean?
So it's just, I think it's a matter of perspective, and I think it's just a matter of like believing in the inevitability of your success. I have to be successful. There's no, what's the alternative?
Yeah, 10 past 4. Yeah, out of the blue.
There's no other way, Chief.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll write a book someday, but right now I don't have the quotable quotes.
With the help of ChatGPT,
With the
write a
help
book
of
in 24 hours.
anything is possible. You know what
24
I
hours to write a
mean? New
book.
York bestseller.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Last question, but I'm going to ask you the offline. It's just that now we don't have more time. Sure. What's next for you?
Okay. Follow me on IG, Twitter, Facebook, amo_amplified. No. So right now I'm just like drawing on my many skills. There's Amo the writer, there's Amo the voiceover artist, there's Amo the producer, there's Amo the 9-to-5er. Right now I'm currently establishing my editorial content creation agency. And it's all just editorial content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm drawing on my writing. I'm doing a lot of voiceover work. Super excited about that. It's just so much fun to just like play with your voice in that way. Like I said, I just completed my honors degree. I am looking to, in fact, I will pursue my master's in cultural policy because I'm passionate about creating quality livelihoods for artists, and I really care about the creative industry. And if I can do that on a higher level, I will. You know what I mean? I will. So yeah, I still have my 9-to-5. You know, I'm still just like hustling and bustling. But right now I'm not looking for jobs. I'm curating my career. Yeah. And so a lot of that is just establishing something, building a team, seeing it through to the end, establishing something, building a team, stumbling along the way, but getting to the end, you know? But like I said, something that's really important to me right now is just learning how to build a team, because I think I'm in my establishment era where I'm just like starting. Yeah.
Amo,
Yes.
thanks for coming through.
Thank you.
But this new thing we're testing out.
Okay. Just one.
No, it was just that day.
One question.
Wow.
Okay. Can I roll? Oh, I have so many questions. I can't believe it's only one. Okay, no, I'll just ask a very basic question. If you were not a creative, what else would you be doing? And how do you think you'd be doing it differently?
Yeah, I'd definitely be fixing cars, like as a auto panel beater.
What?
Yeah.
Johnny?
That's what my dad does. I grew up doing it. I was pretty good fixing cars growing up. I was that guy, you know?
What?
Yeah, he used to work from our backyard. And I'm kind of like lately I'm realizing, should I have known about YouTube back in the days, I would have been so dope. And that's where I would have been coining, you know?
Wow.
So, but I mean, because this is what I'm doing now, there's nothing else I would rather do than be a creator.
Yeah. It's always so nice to get like information about the host. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode of TMC, thank you so much. That was, of course, Guy Leander signing out. Hela.